And I think that was the moment where I realized that like I want to stay here and I needed to figure out what I can do in order to stay here.
Those American tourists, I mean, you can spot them all like miles away, like with the red berets or something. It's like,
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm not really 100% at home here, and then I go to the US and I'm like, but I don't really feel 100% at home here either. So I feel like I'm kind of in this gray area.
You have a French boyfriend.
Yeah.
So this is the only
That's
gray.
definitely helped a lot. Yeah. Highly recommend that.
Hi everyone. Today's guest is Tiana, an American who moved to France. And not only did build a life here, but she started to move on to bigger things, question identity, politics, and what it really means to live well. So, well, Tiana, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you're welcome. We have a lot to discuss, so I'll try to keep it short, but you have an amazing story. I think you've started the first time you moved to France as an au pair.
Yes.
But you got your visa rejected.
Yeah.
But still came back, and then I think you met a Frenchman. So you built a life here, basically. That was brave. You pushed through, but so some of it easy. You had quite a talk about road bumps. So at which point did you realize this was like more than a phase to you?
I think pretty early on, to be honest. I moved here in 2019 as an au pair, and so the plan was just to be here for 1 year and then to move back. But I was here for maybe 3 or 4 months, and then we had COVID. So everything closed down. So then I finished out the year, but I hadn't really done anything. So I said, okay, I need to stay another year to really get the full experience. So I stayed another year, and then I was like, okay, well, I don't really want to leave, so I need to figure out how I can stay here. And I think that was the moment where I realized that like I want to stay here and I needed to figure out what I can do in order to stay here.
Oh, nice. I didn't ask. Where are you from in the US?
I'm from California, near San Francisco.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that's quite a long way.
Yeah.
Long way from home. And so now you've been around for 6 years?
Yeah, 6 years. It'll be 7 this year.
Wow. So you publish content on social medias, and that's obviously deeply connected with the US. That makes sense. But so, would you say that France got you to see the US from a different angle?
Definitely. Yeah, 100%. I hadn't traveled much before I moved here. So coming here, I was coming in with a lot of preconceived notions about the US, and those were definitely challenged once I moved here.
So
sure.
Do you have some examples of that?
Just the idea that we're the best country, we have everything we could ever need, that anyone wants to come to the US, and that I wouldn't have the same quality of life that I had in the US if I moved to a new country, and that was obviously completely not correct.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is going to be a bit controversial, but as a black woman, apparently I've picked that up from your content. I've heard that people often say that Europe is freer, or feels freer at least. Did it feel that way to you?
I would say so. I think there's problems with racism everywhere. So I can't say that there's no racism here, but it definitely, in the US, I think it's a lot more overt.
Okay.
And it's built into our systems and our laws, whereas here, it's, racism is here and you feel it, but it's definitely not as overt as it is in the US. Yeah,
we were talking about this before. It's the feeling like watching some US movies like the Green Book, and we don't really understand like racism at the same level, I would say. I mean, it's hard to compare such things, but what we call racism in France and what you call racism in the US in a way is more openly discussed. Actually, in France, like it's not supposed to be an issue, whereas you see indeed, unfortunately, some stuff that happens.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And so freer was one thing, but also you said in your content that France feels safer to you than the US, not just statistically, but also emotionally.
Right.
Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I think I actually got a lot of backlash for saying that I feel safer in Paris than I do in the States. A bunch of people were like, oh, but Paris isn't safe. And I'm not necessarily saying that Paris is safe, but I feel safer in the sense that obviously there's a lot less violence here than there is in the US. But also just the freedom or the safety of feeling like if I get sick and I go to the hospital, I don't have to worry about a medical bill.
Right.
Or
yeah,
I don't have
so
to worry
there's
about
less
losing
emotional
my job.
pressure.
Exactly. There's a lot more safety nets here, I would say, that allow you to live a stress-free life.
Yeah, because it's actually a thing here, like the work-life balance,
Yeah.
not having to be afraid of a medical bill that could pop up. Okay, right. That's good. It's a good one. Yeah, and that got you a lot of backlash.
Yeah, people were like, oh, but Paris isn't safe. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not
you
saying
live there.
Paris is safe. I'm saying I feel safer.
But you've lived there for 6 years,
Yeah,
so like,
I've never-
you probably know a bit better than...
Yeah, I mean, I think any big city really can be unsafe. You have to kind of use common sense and know your way around and not do certain things, not be in certain areas at certain times. But I've still, even with that, I feel safer here than in the States.
Yeah, well, nowhere, no place is perfect.
Right.
But yeah, okay, I understand. I like the analogy you said, like there's more safety nets. This is how I would see it as well. Like you were saying, there's more employment benefits, the work contracts protects the employee.
Right.
Like you cannot be fired overnight and stuff like this, yeah. So what would you say is the biggest lie that Americans believe about, well, life in Europe, or we could say life in France, whatever?
I think like a lot of people go back to the idea of like, oh, but the US, we have so much freedom, like I have more freedom, and in Europe they pay so much in taxes. Which, okay, that's valid, we pay a lot of taxes here, but I don't mind paying the taxes because you can actually see where your tax money is going. Whereas in the States, we also pay taxes, but we don't have anything to show for it. Like we have a huge military, but other than that, like we don't really have anything that benefits us. So I think that's usually the first thing that people say when you talk about moving to Europe is, oh, but the taxes, they pay so much and the salaries are lower.
We see that often in the comments.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's like the go-to thing, but they don't really take into account all of the rest.
Yeah, right. It's a valid point, yeah. And so, and if I do the reverse card, so what do you think is the biggest lie that Europeans or French people believe about Americans that you would say is not true?
I would say the idea of the American dream, although I think now more Europeans are realizing that it doesn't exist. But a lot of people would ask me when I first moved here, like, oh, but you're from California. Why would you leave California to come here? Like, you must have so much money. You must have a great salary. And I think you have to have a little more detail when you think about those kind of things.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, like you were saying, recently we started to see the US differently, but yes, the American dream and the melting pot, we're talking about this, and we'll talk about that later. Also, just to wrap it up about these like culture differences, if you had to share one piece of advice of someone who wants to move to France, you know, what would be one of the top mistakes or things like you would warn them against, you know, like things that you may not have thought of the first time you came, but like the one piece of advice?
I would say definitely get out of your comfort zone. I think when I moved here, I didn't speak French, and so the first thing I did was try to make English-speaking friends, which is nice until like 3, 4, 5 years passes and you don't speak any French and you only hang out with English speakers and you don't really learn about French culture or anything like that. I would say that's a mistake.
It makes fitting in a bit more difficult.
It makes it very difficult, yeah. Okay. So definitely take learning French seriously, learning about the culture. It's okay to have English-speaking friends, but also like meeting French friends helps a lot too. But
France doesn't put too much pressure. I mean, this is what I like with our country. Well, eventually you have to be able to speak a bit of French, like for long-term residence permit and stuff like this. But at least at first for the visa and like the one-year permits, like French is not required, so you can learn at your own pace.
Right. But it's very easy to get comfortable as well,
yeah,
especially in
that's
Paris
the downside.
with a lot of English speakers. And I think once you learn French, your experience here is a lot different than when you didn't learn French, when you didn't speak French. And doing just like basic everyday tasks is so much easier when you can speak French.
Yeah, especially I suppose those grocery runs or the doctor and yeah. Okay. There's one, I'll read it because it's a bit of a long question, but you made a video, which I saw, where you explained why, I'm shifting to politics, so this, why millions of Americans vote, or you think voted against, or you say vote against their own self-interest. And basically this is probably a question you're being asked often from us, or French or Europeans. It's like, why did the American voted this way like twice in a row? And so as you made a video about that, like what would you say? Like what is like kind of your one sentence response to when being asked that?
That's a good question. I think a lot of people just need someone to blame. And instead of looking upwards and asking questions about, that's interesting, does the 1% have all the money and it's not going anywhere else? They take it as, oh, well, it's because my neighbor is on food stamps. That's why I pay so much in taxes. Or that's why gas has gone up. It's because my neighbor has food stamps or because this lady has subsidized housing. They never ask the right questions towards the right people. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons.
And oh, well, it's a very good answer, I think, and to me, this is spot on. I don't know what they think, but you've also argued one thing, and I found that was a good catch, so that politics in the US has shifted a lot into people's identity, or about people's identity. And so, watching it from France now, does that help you to see US politics differently, or what do you think, or does it actually enlarged this difference from your perspective, or do you think it's very different in France, French politics compared to US politics about identity?
I think it's definitely more extreme in the US as far as identity. I think it has changed. My perspective has changed since being here, but also since I've been here for so long, I think it's just changed in general. Like it's gotten more extreme because I came here during the end of his first term. So there was already extremes, but it wasn't as bad, I think, as it has gotten now. So I've kind of seen it get more and more extreme since then.
You still have family back in the US, okay? So you still have this lifeline, though, like a connection to. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you also made like a very firm stance on one of your video. You said like tolerating harmful political content or views isn't neutral because it's often tagged as for free speech or neutrality. But to you, you say, no, it's not neutral. It's a choice to tolerate that kind of content. And well, would you comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm all for free speech, say what you want to say, but I think there is a line between harmful, hateful speech and stating an opinion. And I think the more that you watch something, you're going to see more of that thing. Especially with the algorithms today and how they work, they're so strong that you can watch one video and then that's all you're going to see for the next few days. And I think when you're an informed person and you look at multiple sources and you know how to verify things, it's fine. But if you're someone who just takes what you see and you don't fact check anything, that can be very harmful. And I think that can spiral really quickly. And I think we've seen a lot of that with the government. Yeah,
some people are very good at marketing themselves. Yeah. On the brighter side, I think, US and France have been long-term allies, and I think that generally speaking, the French love Americans. I do, and I remember being taught, throughout my childhood that Americans are long-term allies and they're best friends and stuff like this. But obviously, considering the current U.S. administration, what impact do you think this could have, like mid to long term?
Yeah, honestly, that's a good question. I'm worried about what impact it will have. I think it's hard to say. I think long term, there's a lot of work that's going to need to be done to kind of repair the friendships that have been built over the years, over the decades. I guess we just have to wait and see.
Do you experience, because obviously I suppose people realize you're American, when do you experience something different nowadays compared to like a couple of years ago, for example? Are people's reaction different with you?
A bit, yeah. I think in the beginning people would be excited to talk to me, ask me about my experience, why did I move here? And they're like, oh, I love America, or I want to visit America. And nowadays it's kind of just like, oh, okay, you're American.
Already?
Or they'll like immediately start talking about the president.
Okay.
So.
But their reaction to you, I think it's important. Like you still feel like welcome and people are excited to speak. I mean, you as a person, basically as an American person, it hasn't changed. No. It's more like their view to, your government or former government.
Right. I've never felt like personally attacked.
Okay. No. Which is good. Like basically, so that means people's stance towards you has not really changed. It's more like what they're interested in.
Yeah, it's more like the idea of the U.S. has changed.
Okay. And so after 6 years, because like let's not forget that you've been around for a while, do you feel fully accepted, you know, in France, or is there still like a glass wall to you?
That's a good question. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm not really 100% at home here, and then I go to the US and I'm like, but I don't really feel 100% at home here either. So I feel like I'm kind of in this gray area. I don't think I'll ever 100% feel accepted. Yeah, but I mean, I've made friends. I have lots of relationships here. I speak the language, so that's helped.
You have the best joker ever. Like, you have a French boyfriend.
Yeah.
So this is the
that's
holy grail.
definitely helped a lot. Yeah, highly recommend that. So yeah, that's definitely helps. But I think there's just so many like cultural references and things that I'll just never understand because wasn't born here. I wasn't raised here. That kind of makes you feel left out sometimes. But other than that, I feel pretty accepted.
A little side question to that. Do the French, you know, because I know we like to judge, and so we like to put labels. So, well, with the French, would you say the French see you as like American, like a black woman, or something they cannot really categorize?
I would say, yeah, most people see me as American first,
Okay.
and then they would see me as like a black American woman.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Every time I meet someone, they're like, but like, where are you from? And then I say, I'm from the US. And they're like, yeah, but like, where are you actually from? And that's a whole nother conversation.
Like them in California, right?
They're like, what are your origins? That's like what
okay,
they really
no.
want to know.
Okay, so it's not really California. They
Yeah,
want
yeah.
Okay. Food culture. We need to talk about that because that's
Yes.
also, I mean, your content has shifted, but
Yes.
yeah. So apparently, I'm biased here, but so French food culture is admired worldwide, and I'm being very pragmatic. But it's, do you think actually the French food culture is inclusive, or is it built for people who have been educated into, you know, refined taste, or like the Michelin star restaurant, or do you think it's inclusive, or do you think you have to be educated to appreciate it?
No, I don't think you have to be educated. I don't think you have to be a foodie to appreciate French food. I think there's something for everyone, really. It's so expansive that you can find something for any kind of taste.
Yeah, from the bistro to the Michelin star, there's a
Yeah,
galaxy.
there's so many things.
Yeah. Okay. And so would you say the French art de vivre, do you say it's real?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so no, we're not just very good at marketing then.
No,
so
it's
a real
real.
thing.
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever felt, well, I have to use this word, safer, you know, like walking alone at night, walking in the streets of a European city, because we talked about Paris, but you've been around, compared to the US?
I definitely do. I think it also just comes back to I'm from kind of a big city, so I kind of have the notions of like, you know, always be aware, know your surroundings, don't be in certain places at night by yourself. So I think that kind of translates into, you know, I keep the same habits that I had before. But besides that, I think I definitely feel safer just knowing that I'm not going to get shot walking home, or there's a less likely chance that that will happen.
Yeah, well, we're not allowed to have guns.
Yeah.
I think that helps.
Right. So, yeah, of course, like there's things that happen all the time. So I'm not saying that, you know, anywhere is 100% safe, but that definitely does help knowing that.
Is there any place, well, in France or Europe, you actually would not recommend for like a solo black traveler, for example, black female traveler?
As of
It
now,
makes
there's
a lot of difference, female to male as well. Yeah,
for sure, for sure. There's nowhere that I've been that I would say not to go. I would just say to be careful, to be more careful in certain places, like Marseille, for example, or Naples.
Okay.
I still think it's worth traveling, but you just have to be careful, you know, and keep the same habits, you know, be aware, know your surroundings.
Well, I suppose, like in every countries, there's obviously the safe places, and it has to be like a city that's the least safe of the country. So yeah, you have to, nowadays. Okay, what's one thing about France that people romanticize that's actually not that great?
That's a good question.
Maybe everything's great. I wouldn't know.
One thing that people romanticize about France.
cheese might be. I mean, you're allowed to for anything.
I don't know.
I know you like to call that smelly cheese or something.
I think a lot of people have this idea of like, oh, but French people don't work that much, or they're always on vacation. Which, like, okay, you get a good amount of vacation, but we still work like 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's still just like in the States. It's just they have more vacation. So I don't know where that idea came from, but...
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah,
no,
a lot of people think that.
We have paid leave, actually, every year.
Right.
Yeah, from the first year, yeah. Okay. And one belief that's, well, Americans are taught, which in a way might relate to what you've just said, but that falls apart when you start living abroad. Or in France in that case. It's more not necessarily about France in particular, like one American belief that the minute you walk out of the US is like, oh, actually.
Yeah. I would say the whole like freedom thing, America having the most freedom. I think that word is very vague. A lot of people say this, but when you really think about it, what they mean is that we have the choice. We have a lot more choices in the US. So if you want a good healthcare plan, you have the choice to pay extra to have healthcare. If you want to live in a good neighborhood, you have the choice to pay extra to live in the best neighborhood or to go to the best school. And people see that as freedom, I guess. And then you come here and the freedom here is more like, I have the freedom to live my life without worrying about if I can pay to go to university, if I can pay to go to the hospital. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I've noticed. For sure.
It's a good point because people often mention free healthcare when they think about, well, French perks. But there's free education, free uni as well.
Yeah.
Like uni is free. So.
Yeah, and that's a big thing because in the US, like most people I know have student loans. And so you start your adult life and you're already set back hundreds, thousands of dollars.
Well, which will then set me back to one thing you've mentioned about the American dream. Actually, well, if I'm being a bit cheeky here, I won't lie, but would you say the American dream might actually be more achievable in Europe nowadays than it actually is in the US?
I would say it depends on your definition of the American dream.
Right.
If your definition is like you want to make a lot of money or have a business and be super successful like materially, then I think the US is still one of the best places to do that. But if you just want to live your life and have a balance and have enough to pay your bills, to have fun, to put money aside and live your life, then I think that's more achievable here.
Yeah, I hear that often. Like, in a way, it's like built-in work-life balance in France, which is like the bare concept, actually. We even have imported that from the US. Like, I've pretty much never heard that until like 15, 20 years ago. Like, work-life balance. It's like, no, well, it's by default.
It's just our life here. Yeah,
there's no work-life balance. It's life.
Right, exactly.
Like, work is not supposed to overlap. So, yeah. Okay, and so we even have something, we call that le droit à la déconnexion, like the right to disconnect from work. This is actually a law in France.
Wow.
So it was like literally like the employer has to shut down some part of the businesses at some point, like during weekends, to make sure you're not working, even if like you're a workaholic or something. Yeah. What's the biggest mistake people make when they try to blend? You know, when abroad, let's say when in France.
Good question. I see a lot of tourists who come here with like berets on and they try to speak French.
On the stripes.
Yeah. And it's really cute. I think French people, I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for all French people, but I think French people appreciate the effort when someone tries to speak French. But I think a lot of people stress too much about trying to blend in and they get anxiety about that. They don't want to stick out. They don't want to be a tourist. But honestly, I feel like no matter what you do, people know that you're a tourist. It's okay to be a tourist because you're on vacation. Like, you don't need to worry about blending in so much.
Okay, well, that's great. No, and it's really about that. I see a lot of those American tourists. I mean, you can spot them all like miles away, like with the red berets or something. It's like, and it's funny because sometimes to be cheeky on webinars and stuff, I like to put on a beret, and even my friends are like, you put on a beret. Like, this is the most touristy thing you could do.
Exactly.
And also, there's a way of putting it, actually wearing the beret itself.
Really?
Like you put it like it's a hat.
Yeah.
But like it's just supposed to sit on top.
Oh, we're doing it wrong.
Like you're not supposed to have it. Yeah.
To know.
So there's a way you wear it.
Yeah.
Also signals like it's. Yeah, you wear it like as a hat. But it's more of a, I don't know, like a cap you put on top.
Just like a fashion statement.
In a way.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's still a place in France where they do it, like in the southwest region, in the Béarn, where it's originally made from. But it's
Yeah, I've only ever seen tourists wearing them.
In Paris, I would say probably only tourists. Or maybe if it's the casquette, I don't know.
A cap.
The cap, yeah, the cap.
Oh yeah, 100%. Or
Parisians might wear that
football
sometimes.
jerseys, instant giveaway.
That's good. Well, Tiana, that was amazing. Honestly, I really like your honesty, your views. You have a very particular angle and angles that I like, very spot on, at least to me. Before we wrap it all up, if people want to connect with you or follow you, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, on TikTok, or on YouTube. Just type in Where Tiana Travels and you'll find me.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I learned a lot watching out your content, so hopefully you will too. Okay, well, thank you so much for watching this. Tiana, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And let's see you soon.
Thanks, bye.